Hi everyone, and welcome to Module 4. I can't believe we're almost halfway through the term. It seems like we just started. But this week we're going to look at your websites and kind of show off everything you've learned in this first half of the term. What's due is going to be everything that we've looked at already, plus the two little assignments that we're going to talk about today. But I would like you to really take a look at the stuff that you've already done. Maybe you could do even more editing, or you've learned some new tools that can make those projects even better. The first half of the term is really, getting used to the software and figuring out how to do things, but now I really want to see you push yourself artistically. You want to make sure also that you're doing some sort of a description. Some of you have done excellent work on your sites explaining why you did things the way that you did, or what makes this filter better than that one. If that's not your style and you don't want to include it on your site, please make sure that you just include it in the comments for me so I know why you did what you did. You can always even put a before and after if that works for what your project is. This week, we're going to be talking about different file formats and compression types. Why would you save something as a JPEG or a TIFF versus a PNG? For example, a PNG keeps opacity. It makes sure to recognize that. So if you had a character and you deleted the background in Photoshop, if you save it as a PNG, when you go to import it somewhere else, it will be the character with no background, but if you were to save it as a JPEG, it would have that white boxed background. So you're going to be doing a little research with that and discussing rights and copyright, all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at the assignments that you're doing for this week. We're going to look at typography, and I think typography is something that isn't looked at enough. It is a really, really excellent tool as an artist. Just different types of font can really make a difference in your project. And then using font as art, just because we have a sentence doesn't mean it has to be, in the background of an image. You can actually just use the words as art. There's different ways to organize it. If you do a little search, you can see portraits done completely with type, or just excellent examples of type. I'm going to post some on the announcements page, but I really recommend that you Google search a little bit of typography and get inspired. All right, so let's get started looking at typography and different stuff in Photoshop. So I chose this quote by Degas: "Art is not what you see, but what you make others see." And I think that's true. A lot of times we might have something and you show it to someone else and they're like, "Oh my gosh, do you see that face in there?" And it might be something that you intentionally did, or a feeling that you can give someone else, and that's kind of what it's all about. So this little T here is basically your text tool. And if you click and hold, per usual, we've got the hidden tools. Basically, this one is going to be a horizontal or vertical type tool. Now, I would play around with different things. You could have this just down here and do something up here, but we can play around with kind of dynamic font. It's not going to be an animated font, unless you want to do that for your GIF project, but you can make it just a static image that looks dynamic. So maybe we'll start, and you can click and let go and just do art. Or maybe we want that to be vertical instead of horizontal. So let's try the vertical type tool. Art. Okay. You can always rotate, so if you didn't want it to actually look like it was standing up like this, if you wanted it to be on an angle, you could do your type tool, do horizontal type, we can do art, and then you can always do Command T or Control T, which is free transform, or edit, free transform. And then, the bounding box is going to come up and you can rotate. If you hold Shift, it'll keep it steady. So you can do something like that. Okay, so it's up to your own personal preference. I would recommend that if you are going to do text that's sideways, make sure to make them all facing the same sideways. It gets a little confusing if you've got some words this way and then if my other one were to be facing to the right. Okay, so now comes the difficult task of picking a typeface that you enjoy, that you think really explains what you're kind of going for. I'm going to make this upright again. We have this character panel here. You can always go to Window, Character. Okay, character and paragraph are where we're going to really be focusing for this type. So I'm going to go to my type tool, apply the transformation. I don't really do anything. We'll fix that later. And then if you click actually in the text name, you can actually use your up and down arrow keys and scroll through the font. Okay. So you want to pick one that you think really fits. There are some terms you guys should probably be already familiar with, such as serif versus sans serif. Sans means without, and serif are the little tails, these little extra bits on your font. Okay. So because this is going to be more of an artistic view, you can really have fun with it. Push the boundaries of all the different fonts. If you desire, you can, hand paint your text or use the pen tool and draw out your text. That is all fine with me. You can click the arrow here to actually see all of the options of text, and it shows you a nice sample, and if you put your mouse over it, it shows your actual piece changing. So I want a big, bold font for this. You can change the point of font. It's basically the size. Points are an actual unit of measurement. So 36 points means for each letter, it's like kind of saying like inches, but it's 36 points wide. With any of these tools, you can hold your mouse over it and it'll tell you what it is. Vertically scale, horizontally scale, tracking and kerning. Tracking is the space between selected characters. So if I want to space out, my letters in art a little bit more, I can change this. I wouldn't really scale. Art or font is an art form, and there were specific artists that made it the way that they did, and that's how they chose to do it. So if you're making your own font, feel free to go to town. I would leave the scale as is, but you can definitely play around with the kerning. Leading has to do with lines of text. So if you have, if you want to break this into paragraphs and you want to split it up, you can do that. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go into this one. We'll move this up. So if I look at the leading, I can bring them closer together. The default is around what your type is, but you can see you can space that out. That's leading. It has to do with back in the day when they would use pieces of lead to separate the pieces of text when they went to stamp it onto a newspaper or a piece of paper. But just undo some of those. Okay. So I really want you to explore different colors, different typefaces. Have fun with this. Try to make your quote, your song lyric, whatever, it should be something that's meaningful to you so you can really have fun and explore different ways of doing it. Art is not just black and white. It's very, people can see different things. So I might want to use a lot of colors or a lot of variations on one color. So feel free to play around with a bunch of different things. So if I take this and let's say a free transform, rotate, art is not what you see. Try to think what's the most important part of that. It's what others see. Others might need to be a bold, bold statement. So I can go in, apply the transformation, and do another text is not what you see. And obviously that's too big of a font, but I can make it smaller. And of course you'd want to fill your page but you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Again, just use your imagination, feel free to try to push boundaries, and then we'll get everyone's opinion on it. Sorry about that, had a little glitch in the recording software. But anyway, let's start talking about Gif Animations. This is another project that you can really have a lot of fun with. It's a way to do some basic animation. You can add things, you can just move things, you can remove things. It's wide open for you. So we're going to use layers for this. So for right now, I'm just going to delete these layers that I have here and start, with my base layer. I'm just going to do a box bouncing, okay? So, or moving, whatever. Keep it simple. Let's make this a purple box. Okay, so I've got my purple box. I'm actually going to delete my white background so that this is just focusing in on the box. Now for this type of animation, you're going to do it in layers, okay? So if I want to move this box, I'm just going to copy my layer, drag down to the kind of new layer, and I've gotten a copy, and then I'm just going to move this box. I can do the same thing, move it up again. Same thing. And then we'll kind of just plateau it. Generally when you throw a ball up in the air or bounce it, it kind of freezes for a second at the top before it starts to move down. And then we'll have it come back down. So I'm just copying and moving. Okay, and we'll end on that same plane we started. You can look up examples of what you want. You can make, a character blank or have an image that grows, if you just start with a base layer and then add more details to it. But for this one, we've got all these layers. To get your timeline up, you're going to go to Window and then Timeline. And then you've got a couple options here. Create video timeline or create frame animation. We want to make sure that says create frame animation. And then you can click on that. There won't be anything here because we actually have to do that. So select all of your layers by grabbing the bottom, holding shift, click the top one. And then we can go into this little options section here. Click on that. And we're going to do create new layer for each frame. You won't see anything. And then we're going to go make frame from layers. And then you'll see each one has my different layer. And basically it's just showing you with the eyeball what this is. And then you can hit play. So that's basically what my animation is going to be. If you want to adjust, it says 0 seconds here. It's actually like 0.1. You can adjust the time. So if you want something to hold a little bit longer and then start and go, you can do that. You can bring all of them to the same. You can explore with different timing. Or you can leave it as the default. It's up to you. Okay. So then once you get it the way that you like it, you can go to File, Save for Web. And this is where we can say, we're doing a GIF. Colors, you want to use all the colors. Transparency, how I removed that white background. If you want it to be a white background, you can uncheck that. So that's kind of up to you. There are some presets. I'm just going to leave it. And we'll do the image size. You can preview it if you want. I'm going to save. Give it a second. Apparently it froze my computer. Okay. So then title it, whatever you want. Sherrington save it wherever you want on your desktop. Then you can save it out. And then you'll be ready to put it in your website, and when it's in your website, it'll actually be a moving animation. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking for this week. I look forward to seeing what all of you come up with, and as always, please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you soon.